but then you then eventually chose to kind of go down the research and the academic pathway, and you left behind kind of like that commercial success in some ways. So I'm interested to understand like your thought pattern at that stage and what drove you. Like Michael called it the drivers. So what were your drivers at that point?
Passion for research. It's really, really simple. I got to the point just before Sydney Olympics where I was working with the women's team. I couldn't pack my bag to go overseas. Steve had to pack it. And then once I was at the airport, I was fine. But I couldn't physically open a bag and put stuff in it. That's how over sporting teams I were.
Wow.
And then once I finished my PhD, got a part-time job at La Trobe. I used to be 9 days at La Trobe and 1 day at a clinical practice. And I would wake up every morning and go, is it a clinical day? Is it a clinical day? Oh, no, it's not. It's not a clinical day. Yay. So it was just so clear to me that was where I needed to be. And I could not wait to get out of the other two. And I wish everyone had that clarity of vision, I guess. Well, it wasn't vision, but clarity of need to be in a certain space. And I think probably my most productive years were from when I finished my PhD in 2000 until I retired. So in terms of outputs and getting some sort of notoriety, I guess, because I don't know that you can as a clinician. Yeah, you can be the greatest clinician and you can be the team physio for someone or another, but you don't influence other people as much as you do with research.
I asked the question to Cate about what did success look like at that point for her, and the same question for you. So once you had that clarity of like research is what I want to do, I want to go down that pathway, could you see ahead at that point and what you wanted to do, or was it just kind of get the PhD out of the way and then I'll just figure out what's going to happen next?
I don't recall any decisions I made once I made the decision to do research that led me to where I ended up. And if you ask me now, how did you make all of those decisions? I would say I have no idea. It was just, what's the next thing I can do? What's the next clinical question I can answer? What's the next research project I can do? What's the next grant I could get? There was no planning at all. It was just, right, let's go with this one. Okay, let's go with this. So it just, again, happened organically, and I don't know how it happened.
I'm still in that juxtaposition, so it's interesting to see where you two are now in your business book and you with your academia, and the way you ask questions, as I said, is quite reflective, because I still now have my new grads come in and I'm like, how can I get them to treat a neck and get rid of a headache and teach them more in their first shoot with me than they did in a 4-year degree, so that they have the confidence to treat patients. I still find something that we had to teach others and to teach those skills, because I do still believe in great hands-on skills. But then I have burning questions that I want to answer, that through my 30 years of clinical practice and reasoning, that I often think, when will I step into the realm of academia? And because I have questions and seen things and want to do things. And then, as I said to you, I quite like the business side. So I'm still dabbling in all three. So, and thinking about it all, and hopefully I've got time.
You used another word that I liked, and the word was confidence, Michael. And I think that, for people who take that next step in their career, they have to be confident of that decision of A, that's where they want to go, and B, I'm going to be pretty good at it as well. Is that something that, like, in your own career, for instance, like when you've either gone and you've had your pathway down, SMA, and then also kind of into more the corporate side of kind of physio and whatever, did you feel confident to do that? Was it a confidence thing, or was it just a passion thing?
That's a really good question, the notion of confidence. I mean, confidence is one thing, self-belief is another, and that's obviously an element of that. And I think it's emulated in what these two, because they've had great self-belief. The shake-up for me came when I went into the brutality of the corporate environment for me, which was not always nice. But ironically, I learnt more about business in the 2 years I spent with the managing director of IPN that LifeCare became a part of, who was a 6'5" British ex-SAS British soldier, who many might have described as a bully, but he was a great teacher. He should have actually been not running a practice. He should have been running a consultancy business, because he was brutal. He was he would humiliate. But he would cajole, and I learnt very quickly how to deal with him, which was to try and be one step ahead of him. So if it was about learning more about finance, I'd say, look, I've got this really good book I've bought. What do you think? Oh, that's very proactive of you, Michael, very good. I actually had this inherent sense that I needed to be ahead of what he was doing. And I think that is, I'd say for me it's more belligerence than it is confidence, because I don't like to be beaten by those sort of situations. So I find an extra element that might help me with that. And one day he said to me, well, why don't you wear a tie? I go, I don't wear ties. He goes, well, I've tried to get you to wear a tie. And I go, I'm not going to wear a tie. He goes, well, I'm telling you to wear a tie. I said, I'm not wearing a tie. What are you going to do, sack me? So there was a certain sense of arrogance and belligerence associated with that. But I think belligerence is an underrated skill. I think confidence is one thing. There's plenty of people that are overconfident, but they haven't got that stickability, that belligerence to keep pushing forward. You know, the notion of, you know, there's got to be a better way to manage tendons. For goodness sake, this is rubbish. You're right. Frictions and ultrasound and stretching doesn't work anymore. We've got to do something else. So that was a belligerence on you challenged the status quo with what was going on with that. Now you had to also have self-belief and then the confidence to tackle experts about the way that this was done. So I think those three things go together. I don't think you can get by on confidence alone, because it's often the substance may not be there. But I think if you've got those three of the stickability, the belligerence and the confidence and the self-belief, there's four, I think all of those elements go into how you then use that to grow the career and keep moving forward.